Welcome to He Did This to Me, the sports podcast from a father and son who happen to be mostly optimistic Knicks, Mets, and Jets fans. My name is Nick, a.k.a. Goody, and with me is my old man, a.k.a. the big guy, Noel. And just like his name, all we do is win. Let's get the show. It's time to begin. Knicks have dropped 2 straight on their road trip. They are now 3-4 on the season. They lose to a hungrier, what looks like more athletic Houston Rockets team, very well coached, by the way. And then they lose to Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks. They get out executed down the stretch, and they lose to a team that we hope and we all think is an inferior team. Talk to me, big guy. How are we feeling about the current state of the Knicks?
I mean, it is a long season, so we have to realize that, if we have 50 some odd wins, we have 30 some odd losses. So, we have to understand that and not get too crazy about it. That said, these were losses that were easily preventable. We absolutely blew it last night where we were up 5, and then after that just went in the tank. Not defending well and having these guys just run straight at us. They were definitely the aggressors, and that cost us terribly down the stretch. So that was upsetting. I don't like the way that Jalen's getting roughed up, but you know what? That's what clearly the league has decided to do. They figured out how to pitch him, and they're roughing him up, and they're putting taller, physical guys on him, and it's making a difference. It's really making a difference. It's making his job harder, and I got to tell you, I don't like how much physicality he's taking, meaning that I think it'll wear him down. Although he's withstood it, he's been a pretty healthy guy, it will wear him down. He takes a lot of physicality, Nick, and I've told you many times I don't like how much he goes to the floor. But as you say, maybe that's some sort of judo chop, way of handling it. I don't know, Hong Kong Phooey. But all I know is this guy's always on the ground. I mean, literally, I'd say 7 out of 10 times he goes to the lane, goes down the lane, he's going to the ground. And then at least 1 out of 3 times he even takes a jumper, he's going to the ground. I get it that he's trying to grow out a foul, Nick, but anyway, he's being physically beat up, and somebody's got, listen, man, you saw that one play yesterday where this guy, whatever his name is, they got 2 guys who look just alike.
Dyson Daniels.
And the French.
Either him or Jalen Johnson, one of those 2, but I'm pretty sure it was
and the
Dyson
Frenchie
Daniels.
even looked like him, too.
They
all look alike. Yeah,
or Ricochet, whatever you say his name. Zachary.
Ricochet. But anyway, he's... This guy's really getting on Brunson, man. You saw that one play where the ref blew the whistle, and he still comes behind him and slaps him. See, right there, I need somebody to step to that guy. And you don't have to start a fight or nothing, but at least just chest up with him or something. Right. Something. Right. This is your captain. This is your guy. And I saw who was standing behind him at that. I think Bridges was standing there at that point, and he just had that same usual look that he has on his face.
And Brunson got annoyed by it. And as soon as Brunson gets annoyed by it, then, everybody, listen, I don't necessarily see Bridges to be that guy, but
no,
I want everybody to at least walk over and I definitely wanted to see a better reaction right there. And when it comes to, like you said, them, kind of understanding how to pitch Brunson. Yes, there have been adjustments. They've always put size on him, but what that size is doing now is that when he gets into the paint and he gets to that jump stop, that first pump fake, they're staying on their feet. Mm-hmm. We're seeing it not just in these last 2 games. We've seen that since the beginning of the season. He has to keep them honest, and sometimes when he gets there, just go up and shoot a little short shot. Mm-hmm. If he's not ready for it, just go up and shoot a little short shot, and then now he's going to start falling for the pump fake. It's like, we've talked about this so many times on this, but the whole Davis thing where it's they seen you, they know what you do, they know you can't hit that breaking ball that's at your back foot. It's now time for you to now make the adjustment. And I have every confidence that Brunson will make that adjustment eventually. Let's not forget he started out slowly last year. And yes. Let's also remember that this team started out slowly last year. They had this exact same record at this time, and that was a team that was basically coming back with, just bringing the band back together and adding DiVincenzo. So This team, there has been a lot more upheaval throughout the offseason, so it only makes sense that it's going to take a little bit longer. But you see flashes in certain games, and the things that bother me is that you see a flash in one game of them stepping it up and playing intense defense where they're out there dictating and they're out there actually affecting the other team and not letting them get whatever they want. And then you see a game last night against an Atlanta Hawks team who First of all, they're missing two of their best players.
Right.
They're missing Bogdanovich, and they're also missing another rotational player that I can't even think of right off on the top of my head. And they are getting just dunks and wide open threes. The first note that I wrote for Nick on Knicks last night, Nick on Knicks, by the way, the other podcast that I do where I break down the latest Knicks news. Please please subscribe, check that out. It'll be in your inbox the morning after every single Knicks game. But it's the first note I wrote down. Not aggressive enough on D. You could just see it from the very beginning. We're not being aggressive enough on D. Bridges is kind of getting mind-boggling when it comes to that, because there's times where you see him like that fourth quarter against Hero or how he played against Halliburton, and then there's other times where he just kind of seems like he's just out there and he's making no impact. OG consistently gives you effort and impact on defense. Consistently.
Right.
I'm not seeing that from Bridges just yet, okay? Wingstop is looking like, some chicken nuggets at the moment right now. And the lack of motion and creativity when it comes to the offense, where I see other teams, they're running actions, and I see us, and basically we kind of just spray it around the 3-point line, and then it's most of the time a Brunson, or some of the times Cat. They then try to go one-on-one with 7 seconds left on the shot clock. I'm seeing just way too much of that. I see sometimes where we do things like where we flash Bridges to the middle, and I like that. Let's see some more of that, where we flash in middle, Josh Hart cuts to the dunker spot, and now if Brunson or Cat get the ball passed from that situation, you got OG in the opposite corner. They get the ball with somebody coming out at them, and they're able to attack that way. I need to see a lot more of that, especially down the stretch. And the thing that I just cannot understand that just makes no sense to me is how we are not running at least 25 pick and rolls per game for Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns. And down the stretch in the fourth quarter, especially in the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter, we are allergic to it. We never run it ever once. And I can't for the life for me understand that part.
It's all ISO down the stretch. I don't get it. I mean, and I have to say here, Jalen Brunson, dude, you're our leader. You're the captain. This is really up to you. We have to make a decision as to who we're going to be as a team. Are we going to be that defensive team? Because we have to realize, too, as fans, that we're judging this team on last year and how they were at the end of last year. And like you said, you have to grow into that, right?
Sure.
But, listen, like I've said many times, you're not immediately given, you don't start your season this year where you left off last year. You start where you started off last year, and how you make it is up to you. You have to build it. You have to make it. I mean, perfect example I was seeing SportsCenter a little while ago, and how, I hadn't watched it for a couple of days or whatever. I hadn't kept up with what the Lakers were doing. And the Lakers, I was like, wow, they started off strong, and now they've lost 4 or 5. So it's just, you have to be consistent. And our game last night wasn't consistent. We had some moments where we were more intense defensively, where we moved the ball offensively, but, and then we didn't, and if we don't commit to being that way all the time, and I'm not sure what does that. I was really surprised, frankly, at some points last night, Nick. I mean, I get it. Nobody seemed angry or pissed off, and I'm not saying nobody's got to start throwing and screaming and shit, but the deal is, Nick, we're not running out at people. We're not just playing with an abandon and we started playing that way with about 40 seconds last night. You know what I mean? When we were down by so much.
Pissed away a lead at that point, like you said.
Pissed away the lead, and now we're down by so much it was insurmountable, and we start playing with desperation. And it's like,
they're not playing frenetic enough. They're not playing frenetic enough.
We should have been playing frenetic like that when we were up 5.
Right.
And then held on to that game.
Right.
But no, we were on our heels.
And even we were up 111, 110, I think, with like a minute and change to go, with a minute and 10 seconds to go, something like that. And
this is as the lead was slipping away.
Yeah, this is as it's slipping away. And
I think they were up on 11 because it was 110, 105. We had the lead, I believe. And that's when it all went south. That's when all the wheels came off and then it went kablooey.
Okay, maybe that's how it played out. But they just, at the end of the day, man, they just need to get an identity. That's the thing that's kind of like scaring me right now. Is like,
and even Tibbs wasn't like flipping on the sideline. I felt like Tibbs was even trying to keep it kind of cool. And I guess maybe as coach you need to do that, but Nobody was getting like pissed off. It seemed
The
like
only
we were too
person
cool
that
for school.
the only person that I see that kind of pissed off emotion from ever is Josh Hart.
Ever.
And last night there was also a play
We need
where
some more Surly.
when we're up 5 and then we come out, we run a pick and roll and Brunson gets the ball on the baseline. I saw this in real time, and now I know on Knicks Twitter, everybody's been talking about it, and they asked Brunson about it, actually, I think, in the post game, where they run it, and he goes down baseline, and the two guys both go with him, and Cat is standing behind the three-point line. Cat was 5 of 9 from behind the arc last night, and Cat is standing behind the three-point line, and he just, ends up dribbling towards the paint. It ends up going out of bounds, and the Knicks retain possession, but Cat was wide open
I
right
saw
there.
That.
And it's just like, why are you, what exactly are we trying to accomplish here? Because that's what we're trying to accomplish. And he's right there. And I think, I take Brunson to task for that. And I take Tibbs to task for that, because those are the two guys who have to be like, listen, Tibbs needs to be saying we're dribbling the ball too much. This is run this. Okay, we're not running an ISO in the corner for JB. We're running this. Okay, we're running it. Call a pick and roll. Call something. Okay, if they're not doing what you want them to do within your system and your motion, then you need to be making that point to them and getting them to correct those actions. And Brunson has to take it on himself as well. I think both of them, it just so far, and it's early. Okay. We're not jumping out the window just yet. We're not saying, okay, man, this is a disaster. This doesn't work. We need to make huge changes. But there are things that are definitely making me very frustrated. And last night, especially, Knicks, man, I could have really used a dub from y'all last night. I could have really used a dub from y'all last night. And just personally. And, it's like they just shit the bed. All game, they were frustrating the fuck out of me with how they were playing. And then you finally feel like, okay, we took care of business when we needed to. We got into a good spot. We can go ahead and we can, close this one out, and then we give it away.
Dude, when we were up 110, 105, exactly, I'm saying to myself, all right, man, here we are. We got it. We got this. Because all game, I kept saying, I can't believe we're still losing this game. I mean, and we just had it, and we absolutely pissed the bed. Man, they've got to wake up here. Because nobody's going to take it easy on you, and everybody's coming hard at you with all the preseason pub we got. If we don't wake up, man, we could be, a few games under 500 before we know it, and you just can't afford to start off like that. And listen, I'm seeing other teams. I do notice, I forget who Boston lost to, but I was surprised that they lost to them. But then, Boston looks strong against other teams. They lost to Golden State last night, but they lost to somebody else, a lesser opponent, before too. And, listen, you see a lot of ups and downs in the league. Some teams win, like Detroit beat somebody, after we just smashed Detroit beat somebody halfway decent right after that.
They beat the Lakers. I just checked. I went and looked at the plays. So the Knicks were up 111 to 110 with a minute and 20 to go.
Okay.
Yeah, and then they just continue. And then after that, it ends up getting all the way to being 118 to 111. That was part of my graphic on Knicks before. So when you told me I was wrong, I was like, do I have this wrong graphic in this entire podcast the entire time? So I went and checked on that. But yeah, man, I mean, you think at that point, even though you've given away the lead somewhat, now you still have the lead right there. All you have to do is not let them just absolutely dominate down the stretch, and their execution, them again, getting whatever shot they wanted, dunks, wide open 3-pointers. And that one thing, again, we love Tibbs. I was very excited that Tibbs got an extension. Tibbs is great. He's a great defensive coach. He has, forgotten more about defense than I'll ever know, especially and basketball in general. Okay, throw out all those caveats. I can still criticize the guy. The drop coverage. We have to stop just running consistent drop coverage on pick and rolls and letting guys like Jason Tatum and Trae Young just step into wide open threes. We have to mix it up a little bit. It doesn't matter what type of coverage you run. If you run the same thing all the time against these elite guys in today's NBA with the skill and IQ that they have, they're going to figure out a way to kill you. We have to mix it up.
Got to mix it up. Got to just, that down the stretch stuff, Nick, us messing up, like you said, with that score yesterday, 111, 110, and how we just crumbled after that. That's where I need Jalen Brunson. I know, as the captain.
He's playing like Jason Brunson right now.
Right? Shitty younger brother. That's where and the thing is, he didn't have a shitty game, Nick. I can't say he had a shitty game. He didn't have his best game, but he had a shitty game.
I didn't
But
love the way
listen,
Brunson played. I thought that he had 3 horrible turnovers in the first half where he's just being loosey-goosey with the ball and very inopportune moments. And and obviously his shooting percentages have not been what we expect out of him.
No.
And then I thought specifically those 2 plays at the end where we dribble, shoots a contested 3 with a guy bigger than him. When we're at that point, we're moving the ball, it looks good. The not passing the ball to Cat, and then dribble, swing it to Cat in the corner when he's basically behind the basket. Now he's got to, hit that 3 off balance. I don't love those possessions by Brunson, and I don't love just overall how we're even trying to set up and start and attack that possession.
Well, and that's where I'm saying that's where I need him to be a better leader. He needs to realize that this game is slipping away. And like you said, 111, 110, okay, let's all take a breath here and realize if we just do what we need to do from here on out, we got this. But no, he kept playing. I don't know how to explain it because I can't say he was nervous or I can't say he was, I don't know what it was, man. But you have to think that when he looks at that, he's going to say, I could do this better, I could do that better. I'm sure he does that every
I know he
right?
will. I know he will.
Of course. But I also find it surprising that he doesn't come to that decision in game himself. And I'm hoping he will going forward. The fact that he's done it three times already this year is concerning.
One thing, we got to give him the benefit of the doubt with this. One thing that we know about Brunson, we saw it last year at the beginning of the season. We saw it last year in the playoffs. Let's not forget that he started off the playoffs horrid. Yeah. Had the worst games that he had all season. What we've seen about this guy is that he will figure it out. And, I know that we both have the faith in that. A perfect illustration of what we're talking about. One note that I have here, last year, Brunson was 4th in the NBA in fourth quarter points. Currently, he is 62nd.
Right.
There it is.
And he hasn't been shooting. He just hasn't.
He hasn't been shooting well, and he hasn't been. Go ahead.
He's taking very hard shots.
He's making difficult shots.
All of his shots are so contested, and these guys are all over him, and they're all up on him, and they got arms forever. And, it's really difficult, man. I do feel like there's some shots that he gets in position to take, but then he doesn't take them because I think the pressure's so great that is fucking him up even when the pressure's not there.
See, I don't believe that. I don't believe it has anything to do with pressure.
So it's the moments where he's just faking.
4 40-point games in the playoffs last year. You think he has so much pressure on him this year?
No. I don't feel like he's feeling nervous from the pressure. I feel like the consistent pressure on him in the defense. Is making him sometimes. I feel like he gets in position to take the shot and he doesn't take it and he goes for something else. It just makes you almost second guess yourself while you're in game, in play, because all you've seen all night is this, and it's just like, oh my God.
I just don't think that's any different than what he's used to, especially last year in the playoffs when we had, Alec Burks on the court with him.
Right.
I think that if anything, he should. I think that he's still figuring out. I think that basketball is a game that it's so fluid and it's such a chemistry, the chemistry affects what you see so much in that sport, probably more than any other sport. And I think that everybody's still figuring it out. I think that he will figure it out, but I think that some of it is just that he needs to go and he needs to look at how guys are defending him differently. Like I said, they're not jumping on that. They're more likely to stay on their feet on that initial pump fake. So you need to go straight at guys sometimes and lay kids. And then also you need to I think that sometimes I see he's trying to get all the way to the rim where they're conceding. Just stop and shoot the 10-footer. Just pull up straight, boom, and hit that right there. And also, let's get you the ball in space, off of movement, after somebody else is attacked. And let's get you off the ball more. Give it to when you get up in the front court, get it to Bridges, have him initiate, swing it to OG. OG's wide open. Somebody has to get over to him. Now he kicks it to you. You're shooting a wide open 3, or you got somebody running at you. Oh, that's an entire different thing. So I just think it's growing pains. I think he'll figure it out. I don't think it's something's getting to him or anything like that. But it's not that serious, man. We saw Brunson literally. He was horrible at the beginning of the playoffs last year, and he ends up going off and having like Michael Jordan numbers in the playoffs. So I think he'll figure it out. I don't think it'll take too long. I think Karl Anthony Towns honestly is playing fantastic, man.
He is playing fantastic, Nick. But one last thing about Brunson, I'll say there are times There are times when it seems like the offensive set that Tibbs is calling is asking Brunson to play the role of Julius. Because it's like you say, let's get more giving him the ball on the go instead of just giving him the ball now and he's got to do this.
It's one of my biggest criticisms
let's not
of
get into
Tibbs.
that.
It's been one of my biggest criticisms of Tibbs for everybody, and I feel like it's the fucking deja vu, because this is Mike Woodson with Melo too, where it's like, okay, hey, we're down the stretch, give him the ball, everybody else stand over here and watch, and it's like, yo, if Brunson is doing that,
Nick, these guys don't want to pass as much in that moment. They feel like there's so much a greater chance of getting turnovers.
That's
I disagree.
The stupidest shit I've ever heard.
I don't get it. I don't know why. I don't know why.
You think it's harder? You think you're more likely to get a turnover or something bad happen when you're trying to pass the ball to somebody, as opposed to being a small guy on the court and trying to dribble through everybody? No.
I was going to say, I see it with a lot of other teams, but like a Golden State, you don't see it with them. They move the ball around and get a great shot.
They're an anomaly. They move the ball more than anybody. But what I also see, what I saw last night between Trae Young and Clint Capella, was they were running pick and rolls.
Right.
Run a pick and roll with the two. We got the best pick and roll, pick and pop duo, arguably in the league, and we never run it. I would do anything to be able to sit in front of Thibodeau and ask him like a question and a follow-up question about the pick and roll. About, is it something that you just don't believe in, like as a philosophy, as far as like offensively, or is it something that's out there but they just don't do it enough? And why aren't you yelling at them, Carl, go set a pick for Jalen? When we run it, we get good shots off of it almost always.
With Cat, he is playing well. His numbers look great. We're missing something. We're missing something as far as I don't know, because if Cat's not the guy who's going to be, I need a little more toughness and stuff like that. Cat's the guy who I'm seeing when he's getting fouled. Nick, we need like a power forward or something, because OG's not the guy either. I mean, OG plays hard. But and I don't mean toughness where I need somebody shoving people around, being Charles Oakley. I don't need that. But we're not, it's hard to explain. We're not physically imposing in any way. We show no rigidity on the court. We're just absorbing hits all the time. And I'm not saying we got to hit back, but we have to be firmer somehow on the court, Nick. And I'm not explaining. What does this have to do with
Cat?
What I'm saying to you is that Cat is a big guy, but he's not that guy. And that's just not the guy he is, the kind of player he is. And I don't want him to change who he is, but we need that element.
See, I find this is an argument that I was having, and I happen to be a member of the most exclusive Knick chat in the world on X. I can't say the name; it's top secret.
Major name drop, but without dropping the name.
Listen, I'm just saying that there's some very, very, very high profile Knick fans in this chat, and I was arguing with some people yesterday about exactly this, because they're talking about how they feel like Cat needs to be tougher and this and that. And, as far as like the rebounds and whatnot, last night he had 16. Last night he had 16 boards in there, or was it 13? No, he's averaging 13 boards for the season. Last night he had 16. He had 3 blocks as well. And I see him. I've been keying on this because it's something that honestly has been a pleasant surprise for me, because I didn't really see this from him in Minnesota. I'm watching him do a great job of boxing out, getting strong rebounds in the paint, in traffic. I'm watching him rotate on defense and be a good rim protector for this Knicks team. What I'm also seeing is OG Anunoby is averaging 4.3 rebounds per game. Mikal Bridges is averaging 3.1 rebounds per game. I'm telling you right now, if one of those guys doesn't get up to the 6 or 7 number, and the other guy doesn't get up to at least like the 5 number, we're going to have a serious problem, because we need more rebounding. Josh Hart is averaging 8.9, so just under 9 boards a game for him. He's doing his thing. I just think that, it's easy when these things aren't going well to look at the center. But when I watch Cat, from what I'm seeing and what the numbers back up, is that he is handling his business as a center and doing what he has to do as far as manning the paint. Now, I also saw last night at least one time off the missed free throw where they get the rebound, where it was Brunson's fault, where it's a deep rebound that he didn't box out, and then Trae Young ends up getting a rebound off a missed free throw in a key moment in the game, which can never ever happen. I think that the guards got to do a better job of rebounding. The one thing that think about the whole, let's have have Precious, or would you, be the 4, or that doesn't make any sense to me, because then what? I guess Josh Hart is then the one who's going to the to the bench if you make Precious the 4, or if you have Mitch back and you make Karl Anthony Towns the 4. Any of those scenarios, I guess it's Josh Hart being taken out. Well, he's the second best rebounder on the floor. I guess if it's Mitch or if it's Precious, then yeah, those guys rebound too. But to me, the entire point of making this trade was the whole 5-out thing. So I think that that's going to be the way that this team wants to play. And offensively, it's looked fairly good, even though we're talking about the fact that we're frustrated with the lack of the ball movement and the lack of, execution down the stretch. Numbers wise, our offense is pretty good. We're scoring enough points. We're just giving up too many points.
Nick, I started off by saying I thought Cat's been playing very well. I wasn't criticizing Cat. I said we're missing an element as the team.
And
he doesn't provide that element. He does. I said he is not that guy. My point is that he is not that guy. We're missing that element, and he's not that guy. So we can't expect that from him. It's just an element that we need. And listen, if those two guys, Bridges and Anunoby, are both getting over 5 rebounds a game, maybe that would be that element that would show it, and would do the necessary things to put us in better position. But right now, we're getting beaten too much. We're getting beaten too much, like we started this conversation, with physicality and intensity. And this is all part and parcel to that. And I guess that means everybody on the team has to play that way. When we get into trouble with length, and it's just showing. So we get into trouble with length, Nick, so what we have to do is we have to outwork people. And we haven't been outworking people. When our shots are falling, it's great. But you have to fall back on outworking people. And we haven't been doing that consistently. And this is why we're here.
Yeah, no, we definitely need to do a little bit of soul searching as a team and really think about, like I said, what is the identity? I mean, both Julius and DiVincenzo are both the type of guys who, that Brunson situation where he got slapped on the hand, both of those guys are the type of guys that are walking over and stepping in between and being yo, what the fuck? You know what I mean?
All I needed somebody to do. I didn't need somebody to commit an assault.
Yeah.
Just step and do that. That's all we need as a team. Guys just stood around. Literally, nobody even stepped to Brunson. Guys just stood around. I was looking at everyone's face, and everybody was just looking off into the distance.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, trust me, that bothered me too. And
they wanted to avoid the situation because they saw the situation. It's not that they didn't see it or feel it or hear it. I'm sure, but they almost acted like, oh man, like they didn't even want to be a part of that.
I think maybe you're reading a little bit too much into it.
But how do you not want to be part of that if you see your guy getting, treated that way?
I think a lot of it is I just don't know if there's not that many guys that are, really about that like they used to be in the NBA overall.
You don't have to be some tough guy, but you're right.
I'm not saying that you have to be a tough guy. I'm just saying that there's not enough. There's not as many guys there's not as many Oakleys in the league anymore. Like those guys that, you know what I'm saying? Like it's just,
we need some cats who ain't country club then. Okay.
Yeah. We need some. Yeah. I'd like to think that Precious Mitch is a guy who definitely would have. Mitch is a go step in between and like what's going on here. And then when he's got his head up like this, he's not really looking at the person, but he's in between. Yeah, no. Mitch is going to jaw with you. I can see Mitch getting. Damn, yo, why you?
I like Mitch. You
gotta talk about my guy Mitch like that. Yo, chill. Damn. That was a bit of a line step right there for Mitch. Wow. Come on. I also think the rotation's too short right now, man. Some of these guys, and I have to give a little bit of credit where it's due. Because one of the things that I'm always, arguing about, and some would call me somewhat of a Tibbs apologist, is I really get aggressive when people start talking about the minutes and saying like, oh, Tibbs is running these guys into the ground, and I'm like, let's look at the numbers. Right now the Knicks don't have anybody like in the top 10, and my guy Jeremy in the chat, he said 3 losses opening night massacre. Here are the minutes for OG plus the Nova 3. 40, 37, 38, 38, 40, 40, 42, 38, 39, 41, 37, 38. So when they're losing, they're going to be playing their better players, right? And then when they win games, they're going to be playing some of their lesser players, and that averages out to not being a ton of minutes overall. There's that point. There's also the point that in a lot of these games, when we have faltered down the stretch, you seem like guys are wilting a bit and like they're coming up short. And then you look up in some of those games and it's like, dude, it's game 7 and we're running like a 7-man rotation, which is kind of like really a 6-man rotation with a little bit of Sims mixed in. I know that we got some injuries, but we got to involve some of these other guys a little bit more and find a way to, not to just give us a little bit more where we can, sustain and finish down the end. There was one game, Houston game. Brunson played the entire second half. Yeah. I don't think anybody's ready to play an entire half 7 games into the season. I just don't think that's smart to ask that of a guy. I think there's going to be times in the season, especially late, especially when it means something where you might want a guy to play an entire half. But Brunson playing the entire, especially with the level of physicality he plays, with the stature that he has, him playing the entire second half in game 6 of the season, I think that's a bit much.
Yeah, I mean, look, I see that, but I think it's more to the effect of, like you were saying, with, when we're not playing well, you're going to have your starters in. I mean, of course, Sims, I think part of what it is, I hope part of what it is with Tibbs too, is that he's trying to play these guys together a lot. I don't know, because it's almost like they run practice, Nick, because they don't practice. I don't know, I
don't know that they do practice.
The mention of your guy of our guy Sims just rips me apart because like last night when I got home, I got into the game a little late. I got home a little late, and when I got in, he made a play or something. I was like, look at my man Sims doing something. I was like, who is that? I thought it was Dottier for a second. Sometimes you can't tell for sure because the same hairdo, right? But it was Sims. But then the rest of the game, man, there's just so many moments where you're like, hello, we're here. We're over here. This guy just seems absolutely lost. And more and more, Nick, I'm seeing people writing the same things we've been saying. Is this guy playing his way out of the rotation? Do we have to see more?
It doesn't seem to be. Why haven't we seen more Huck Porty? That's one of my big questions too. Every time I see Huck Porty on the floor, I feel like he's giving me more than Sims is, and he's younger with less experience. So that seems like that would only continue to grow with an actual shot and given more opportunity. He had that one game where he played 12 minutes and Sims only played 3, and I thought, okay, maybe the tide is turning here, but we haven't seen that. And I'm sorry, but
seeing more.
I listen.
I think he trusts.
I'm begging for it. I'm begging for it, but I mean, I'm begging for it, but I'm not seeing it. Kolek gets in the game yesterday. He makes the 2 threes that he takes. Kolek definitely is going to have trouble guarding in this league. No doubt about it. When it comes to just his stature and his athletic ability, he's going to have a tough time. Like I said, he had the 2 threes, but then, Tyler Kolek yesterday, he played like, he played no time. He played like, I want to say like 10 minutes or some shit like that. Like it's like, or less than that. Tyler Kolek yesterday, he played a grand total of 8 minutes and 44 seconds. You got Deuce, obviously. He's our number 1 bench guy. Deuce has looked good except for that one game against Houston when he was 0 of 9. And we just have to figure out a way to be able to get some of these guys. Listen, I understand. Yeah, things even out, blah, blah, blah. The entire second half in game 6 for Brunson, I'm sorry, but that's just not good. I don't think that's a good idea. I think that's the type, and I'm such a Tom Thibodeau apologist when it comes to the whole minutes thing. I'll go dive into the numbers and be like, well, this guy played yeah, but at the end of the day, certain things that you see and you're just like, come on, man. Like last year when he was having guys out on the floor with a minute and a half to go and we were up by 24, I'm like, yo, what is happening right now? This year, the one game, the blowout, you got everybody out of 5 minutes. All right, Tibbs, I'm good with that. Tyler Kolek needs to play a little bit more. I know that campaign is hurt. It's got to be a next man up thing. It can't be that means that the main guys are just going to have to pick up for that. Nah, that's too much to ask these guys early in the season. In my opinion, Sims is a bum. Get him out of here. He's all this work he was doing with Mike Bibby. I'm seeing him in the offseason shooting jump shots with each hand. Now I'm seeing him catch the ball in the paint and he's dribbling out of the paint. I've seen him do that once at least in each of the last 2 games. And defensively, he's late. I saw him maybe grab 1 or 2 rebounds that I thought were okay yesterday, but just overall, man, he's not giving you anything. No. Sims, when I after a game, if I feel like Sims, if I look at it and I say to myself, yo, Sims, there was no after the game, if I think to myself, there was not a time tonight where I thought to myself, Sims, what the fuck are you doing? Then I'm like, oh, he played pretty well. That's my barometer for him of whether or not he played well. And honestly, it's like he never feels like he's giving you anything.
I saw some people write that, all Sims really does is run and jump. He's out there strictly for cardio.
But Dad, the sad
Strictly
part
for
is that he
cardio.
doesn't
That's why
even.
I've seen some cats in a chat I'm on online that just call him cardio. They refer to him as cardio because they say that's all he's out there for. I mean, Sims,
No
man,
shot attempts. I think in the last
Nick,
two games.
I think somebody told him that if he looks at the rim when it's not an alley-oop, he will go blind.
In his
When
last
he
like
gets, he just turns away from the rim.
in his last like 20. No, but he hasn't even finished a couple oops that Brunson has thrown up.
I know,
for him
and
this
even
year.
that he sucks.
And in his last like 20 minutes, I don't think he's got a shot attempt. Come on,
Yeah,
guy. Come on.
and he Brunson isn't great at throwing the alley oops. Like
He's
you
not.
know who was really
He's
good
definitely
at throwing the alley oops? Quickly. Quickly was great at that.
Quickly was very good at it. Yes.
Yeah.
Quickly
Didn't
was
he
very good
just
at
get
it.
hurt, by the way?
No, he's been hurt. He's been hurt. He's got like an abdominal stress. He's got something like that where he's been out indefinitely. But have you seen RJ? You see what RJ's been doing?
I've been hearing that he's killing it.
RJ right
north.
now is averaging 25 points and 7 assists and 6 boards. And yeah, he RJ's doing his thing. I've been seeing. I've been keeping my eye on RJ. RJ's doing his thing.
Good for him.
Yeah, good for him. And I did see a compilation the other day of Julius Randle playing defense. That was really tough. Really tough. Just a lot of like him, like thinking there's a foul and just going like this and just giving up a fast break the other way. Like, you know, some of the shit that we've seen from Julius before, but we could definitely use a little bit of him in that Ragu fire. Like, I honestly, like, if we could have just somehow, some way kept Ragu right now would change everything on this team. Just because of the fire.
He brings that fire, that energy.
That type shit. Yes,
we need that.
You need that.
I don't even think, honestly, even if he was healthy, campaign doesn't bring that. You know, no, campaign doesn't bring that. Ragu had that slight edge.
Nah, he does.
Even though he's from Delaware, he almost had like a city almost edge to him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Campaign, no, not so much.
Yeah, no. Listen, Ragu absolutely has a lot of urban swag to him for sure. That's a fact.
The White Jordan of Delaware.
There you go. Wilmington's finest. And Wilmington is that's the thing. People don't think of it, but I know I've spent some time in Wilmington. Wilmington's a city.
Oh yeah.
Wilmington's a legit city. All right. So listen, let's not get too crazy. Definitely want to see some improvements. And then this Friday night Knicks, we have Giannis coming to the Garden. Giannis, who recently there's been rumors that he may want out, and the Knicks would be one of the destinations that he would approve. Would you want Giannis?
But if you got Giannis, who are you giving up, Nick? Who would you?
Bridges.
Does it have to be Giannis or Cat?
No,
I don't know. And get Giannis. If you could do that, then that's just unbelievable and amazing. You'd have to do it, I guess, right? Although I don't know how that would mesh. But so who are you giving up to? Who's Giannis in place of in that starting lineup?
I don't want Giannis.
And I don't really want him either.
I don't know, as recently as a year ago, but definitely a couple years ago, there's no possible way that I would have said this, but I feel like I just don't feel like he's a good fit for this team. And the other thing about Giannis is he's starting to get nicked up and he can't shoot. Guys that can't shoot don't age well.
Yeah, he's getting injury prone and he can't shoot, like you said. I mean, if you're getting a little injury prone, you need to stay a little further away from the basket. Guess what you need to do? You need to shoot. So yeah, Giannis, I don't know. And that go gadget shit. I mean, if you're nicked up, that shit don't work quite as well. But listen,
and Father Time.
That's right. He's still a great player, but I don't know that I want him on the Knicks necessarily. That's just not the direction we're going.
Yeah, we don't need another star piece. We need, other just like long, gritty guys. You know what I mean? We could use a couple of just guys that are long that can shoot a three and that like play good hard defense and can fucking dunk on somebody. But I don't know exactly who that is or what we get. I did hear Alan Hahn say today that the Knicks front office, they do not look at this like, oh, this is a finished product. They know that, like, as trades start happening around the trade deadline, but you start to get to a point where it's like, what assets? We gave up so much in that Bridges trade. Like, what assets do we have to be able to really be able to dangle out there to be able to get anybody of significance?
Nick, okay, it's better now. Your camera just went really blurry. Now it's better. It's back to normal. As far as whether or not if we make changes at some point, Nick, this year, who are you again in our lineup right now? Who
it's not starting. It's not. We're the starting lineup's not going to change drastically, in my opinion.
Right.
unless you try to go bigger, but that's going to be with internal pieces.
Ultimately, Nick, I think the one of the things
We
that
need bench
lack,
help. Our bench
we
is
need bench help,
bad.
and we need some more length. We need just
that's
length.
yeah, that's what I just said.
Oh, you said bench help. I didn't hear the other part.
Yeah, but no, I said we need long guys who can
okay.
play some defense and can dunk a basketball on somebody and can hit a three.
Should have gotten Kelly Oubre.
I would have loved a guy like Kelly Oubre coming off the bench, and he's not a great shooter, but he's decent. But he's the type of defender and a type of length that I would have liked as being some guy who came off the bench for this team.
Yes.
I definitely think that he could have been a guy who helped, but it doesn't seem like he even entertained anybody outside of the Sixers.
Right. I like yesterday with Trae Young. Okay, I get it. Trae Young, Ice Trae, all that bullshit. But I just felt like even Mikal Bridges did a good job on him at times.
For 3.5 quarters. He did a good job on him until the end of the game.
Yeah, could you be a little more physical with the guy? Just toughen up on this guy. He's like a wispy guy.
What they're doing to Brunson. Why can't we do that to him?
We couldn't do that. And it was very frustrating, Nick, or wouldn't do that, I should say. And it was very frustrating. We got to figure that out, man. We got to figure. And Deuce isn't that physical guy either, I guess, right? It's not even like, can you put Deuce on like a Trae Young and get him to body up? No, he doesn't see. You know who would do that?
Deuce was switched on. Deuce guarded Trae Young a ton last night. And when he switched on to him, I thought he did a fantastic job. And yes, I think Deuce is absolutely the body up type of guy.
Okay. And
defense.
Payne will do that too. Campaign will definitely do that too.
Yeah. Listen, it's to me, it's all about Bridges.
Right.
Bridges.
Why isn't Bridges doing
Bridges,
that?
come on, man. I just need more from Bridges overall. Offensively and defensively, I need him to be more aggressive. And we know that he has the ability to do it. It's not and we've seen him do it. It's not like he's one of those players that you've seen over years where it's like, this guy, sometimes he's like this, but most of the time he's not. No, with him, it's something that we've seen sustained over entire seasons. He averaged 26 points a game. You cannot do that in the NBA without being extremely aggressive. I just need a little bit more of it. He's finding his way as well. He's the new guy. I get it. I'm gonna give him some grace, but I need a little bit more.
I told you, Nick. Gunpowder in the food.
The New York Jets come out to the desert to play against the suddenly surging Cardinals. They come to the Cardinals. They come in off of the win against the beat up Texans. People are talking about running the table. The Cardinals, as I said, they blew out the Bears last week. They're feeling optimistic about their playoff hopes last week against the Bears. And these are the things that scare me. You tell me how you feel about it. 213 rushing yards and 6 sacks. How you feeling about those Jets, big guy?
Yeah, it's going to be a tough game, Nick. I said this a couple weeks ago when they, a week and a half ago when they beat the Texans. This is going to be a very difficult game. This guy Kyler Murray, his movement is going to be a major problem. So what do? You keep a guy like a Sherwood there spying him all the time. Now you've opened up coverage incredibly in the middle of the field.
Sure.
So I don't know exactly what we do to counteract that guy. And then beyond that, they just have a good running game anyway. The guy Connor or whatever is already running up and down the field. We're going to have a tough time Sunday, Nick. We have to come out. We have to score. I think we need to score 30 points to win this game.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. And they are not that great defensively. They have not been great. Their defensive backfield has not been great. We have to take advantage of that. We have to make plays. We have to win the turnover battle, and then we'll have a chance. But we need to score 30 to win this game because you know what? They're going to score at least 20. That's just the reality, I think, So
I'm completely with you on all of those points, especially the fact that we need to score. And I think that's not just concerning this week. I think moving forward, the Jets need to be a team that's scoring 25 to 30 points minimum because this defense is not that defense that it used to be.
Not lockdown. Nope.
No, we're not. It's not a different defense. There was always if we score 21, we're good. This ain't that team. Okay. So we need to definitely be able to step it up as far as the offensive production. And we need the defense to be able to figure something out because, it's like, all right, we've gotten now. I'm hoping that Ulbrich is getting a little bit more into a comfort zone as far as like, okay, I'm the HC, but like, let me make sure that I'm giving the defense enough attention. And, I have liked under Downing. I have liked the play calling better as far as the offensive side, as opposed to Hackett. I think that, Rodgers Hopefully what we saw in that second game of the Texans is him starting to figure it out a little bit. Devontae Garrett's obviously doing his thing. We got to run the ball against this team. And I mean, come on, make these guys throw it over the top. I know they have Marvin Harrison Jr., who is having a decent rookie campaign, and Kyler Murray can definitely push the ball down the field. But if we just cannot let this team just run it directly at us and dominate us, and we saw last week against the Bears, 213 yards. The Jets have really struggled, and they run the ball between the tackles quite a bit as well. We have to figure out a way to slow down the rushing game, or if we don't, I think it could get ugly.
Absolutely. We got to bow up, Nick. We got to bow up, bow our back, and make some tackles. And that means the defensive line as well as our defensive backfield sometimes too. Okay. Hey, man, I saw some of our linebackers not making proper tackles or good tackles last week.
Absolutely.
Nick, and I watched these other games. We'll watch a game tonight, I'm sure. But I watch these other games, Nick, and it's not just like nobody's tackling in the NFL. I see these other teams that consistently tackle hard. So they're the Steelers, especially. They are hitting people so hard, Nick, and I don't see any of our guys hitting people that hard. And just like this is how they play. They play with force and consistently. I don't understand how our coaches are not seeing that and saying to our players, get your shit together. No one is getting in anyone's ass about this aspect of the game, clearly, on our side of the ball, on the Jets. Because, it's obvious, man. Other teams do it consistently. It doesn't just magically happen because they're wearing that color uniform. It happens because that's the way they coach it. And we're not doing that, man. And, I don't get how that's the case. And no one is trying to fix that. Because when that happens, when I see our guys like miss tackles or just bullshit tackling, Nick, where it takes 3 or 4 people to tackle one guy and everybody's not Jim Brown. It's like, come on, man, get him on the ground already. And the coaches are just standing on the sideline. I'd love for somebody just one time, and it doesn't have to always be this way. I know it doesn't always work, but can somebody go Bill Cowher on somebody just one time?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know, but then, Dad, you say that, but at the very same time, you also always criticize Dable for the way that he undresses Daniel Jones.
Well, he's an asshole. He's kind of a jerk, and also too because you can hear what he's saying. All I'm saying is that you don't have to be getting in somebody's face and going straight Bill Cowher and spitting on them and everything. But at least when you're having like the defensive unit meet, I need somebody over there. Somebody, doing some of this and whatnot, something, not a lot. I feel like people are sending emails to one another on the sideline. It's like that fucking relax.
Hey, and that was one of the things Devontae said about the sideline is that there wasn't enough emotion. That's one of the things he said he noticed immediately.
Sad.
We'll see what the Jets do. I'm hoping that they come out and hey, maybe they put it all together and they give us a great performance. One person who has been in the news because he did an interview recently, and there's been quite a bit of talk. I wanted to pose this question to you before I give my thoughts on it. Would you bring back Joe Douglas next year if, let's say, we miss the playoffs and we have another year missing the playoffs? Would you bring back Joe Douglas?
I don't know, Nick. It depends on a few things. If we're going to run it back with Aaron Rodgers and so forth, there's no reason to change anything. I just don't see that. You're going to bring in another coach and say you're going to saddle him.
I'm not talking about the coach.
I understand that, Nick. If you keep Aaron Rodgers, then what are you saying? Keep Ulbrich and change the GM?
I'm saying that first and foremost, if you're going to make any of these changes, the first change that you would have to make is at the GM position.
Well, but I don't think you make any of those changes if you're bringing back you're bringing the same band back. And really, it's just Aaron Rodgers. Because if you change Aaron Rodgers, you're changing the direction, you're changing the regime, all that. If you're bringing back Aaron Rodgers, you're not going to change the offense. Okay, you're just going to try and do it better.
Sure.
You're not going to change all that up and have him learn some new verbiage, all that. That's not going to happen.
We were looking to bring in a different OC this past offseason.
That's true. I don't think now, after doing a year, and then you got this guy Downing. I keep wanting to call him Will Downing, who was a jazz musician, but it's what is it? Something Downing. What's his first name? Todd Downing. But I just think, man, if you bring in back Aaron, you're not making a lot of changes with the coaching staff, or I think you're going to kind of run it back, and I don't see then that you're going to bring in a GM and tell him, oh, we're going to run. I mean, what GM wants that job? Where you're bringing me in, but we're not. Don't change anything here. I just.
What do you mean? How often is a GM brought into a team where the quarterback is already established? That happens all the time.
No, it's not just the quarterback, but if the quarterback's established, Nick.
I think if you want to bring in a new GM, you have to say to that new GM, "Hey, listen, First of all, you want to ask them their opinion on whether or not you should run it back with Aaron Rodgers, and then if they believe that you should, then you say, "Okay, we're doing that." But other than that, you have to let the GM do whatever they want to do, and that includes, hey, if things don't get any better this year, I think just running it back that's the worst thing you could do.
I agree. I told you I think we should change that.
And I also think that personally, I feel as though our best, I don't know what the option is at a quarterback that we're going to go and get that's going to be better than the quarterback play that I see from Aaron Rodgers currently. I don't know who's out there that we're going to be able to go get. So I personally think that if Aaron Rodgers physically can, and he wants to, I'd like him to be the Jets quarterback next year. But I also would like to bring in a new GM and a new coaching staff. And I just think that Joe Douglas, specifically we know about some of the misses that he's had. He had that one great draft. Other than that, he's had glaring misses, especially at the wide receiver position and that huge miss at the quarterback position and a little bit on the offensive line as well. But beyond that, I think that the hubris that he showed and the lack of appreciation for this defensive line and what it once was, I think that was a huge miscalculation this offseason. And I don't think that gets any easier now if you want to try to keep Devontae Adams on the books. So, in my opinion, if you're the Jets, I could see moving on from Joe Douglas. And I think if you move on to a new GM, you have to give that guy total control. And if not, then you're dead fucked.
Well, I think if you're bringing in a new GM and you give him total control, you have to be willing to accept the fact that he might say, I don't want Aaron Rodgers.
Well, as I said, that's the conversation that you have during the interview process.
Right. And see, then Woody has to decide, if that's okay with him. My whole point is, if that's not okay with you, if you want to keep Aaron Rodgers, then you should keep Joe Douglas and keep everybody. Or if he can do some tweaks on the coaching staff. I
don't understand why you can't bring in a GM who wants to keep Aaron Rodgers.
Because then you're just searching for a GM who wants to keep Aaron Rodgers. You're not searching for a GM who you think can do the job. And I think, like you said, that's a bad idea. I want to bring in a GM who I think you're a great guy and you can do the job. What do you want to do? And when he says it and he says he wants to get rid of Aaron Rodgers, I'm not like, I just say, it's your job. You do it. I don't know that. I don't believe Woody is there. I think Woody wants Aaron Rodgers. Woody's into that whole thing. And I get it. That's fine. And you might be right. Aaron Rodgers might be that guy. Or he's not. No, we're not going to get anybody better. And maybe you bring in a young guy to apprentice. That's great. All that. Or Jordan Travis. Maybe he can get there. I just feel like if you're going to do all that, don't bring in a new GM. And then a year later, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know.
I think you bring in I think that all the time when teams get new GMs, they do it with an incumbent quarterback all the time. I think that's super common.
It is.
So I just don't see.
But this is a different situation.
I don't see why.
This guy has so much influence. A lot of guys won't want to come in to a team where they feel like they can be undermined by the quarterback.
Bring him in, but don't let him be undermined. Bring him in and say, "Hey, Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback, but you make the decisions," and let that actually be the case. To me, that is the correct answer. Whether or not we will do that, I have no idea.
Do you think that's been the case this year?
I absolutely think that Rodgers has a ton to do with. Listen, I think that if Rodgers was like, absolutely not, do not fire Saleh. When you look at the whole Saleh situation and going back to how when him and Saleh, from the summer to the tapping on the chest and not hugging, all that when during the time I kept trying to say, no, I think he really likes Saleh, blah blah blah. But then when Saleh gets fired, and we also find out that him and Woody talked the night before, and then we have the Chris Carton reports that he put out as far as the fact that he said he doesn't want Saleh. I'm sorry, man, but when you really look at that, there's probably something to that. I don't think Rodgers was giving ring endorsements, but I don't know for sure. I definitely think that he is extremely influential and has a lot of say in what goes on around the building and also when it has to do with the personnel. And I don't think that's the best model. I think that you have to give him some. If you want to bring in this guy at this point of his career, I think that you should bring him in at least wanting to have his input and whatnot. But I also think that JD has just straight up dropped the ball on certain things. The defensive line being one. I think that the whole Hassan Reddick situation, hey, maybe this guy's just an asshole and said all these things and then went back on it. But there was a whole lot of people when it happened that said, you cannot bring this guy. You cannot make this trade unless you have already worked out the contract with him that you're going to give him. If not, you're putting yourself in a shitty situation. We know how it all played out. And something else that a lot of people don't talk about that I personally think as the GM, and I know there's variables here, if you were going to go ahead and do all this and get Devontae Adams, figure it out and do that shit before the season. Figure it out.
You don't know if the Raiders were as willing to do it.
I'm not sure if they were as willing to do it at that point, but Devontae could have started.
Right?
Well, no. People have been talking about the fact that, and Devontae literally said in the offseason in different interviews that if he ever was going to leave, if anything, it would probably want to be a reunion with Rodgers. So I just think that this is something that's been being talked about for over a year. I think that
he would go to them and say, I want to be traded. When he said that, they got it done.
Yeah, I think that obviously there's a way that, I think that it could have gotten done beforehand. I do. I don't know that to be sure, but I think at the end of the day, waiting this long into the season and when the season is already lost. And also something that rubbed me the wrong way that I saw this week, Quentin Jefferson goes and signs with the Bills. What the fuck?
We did?
Yes,
I know he was available. I don't understand why we didn't get him.
This is what I'm saying.
He got cut by these fucking guys.
He's a former guy. He's exactly what we're lacking right now as far as interior linemen. And then
this Sunday
he'll be suiting up for the Buffalo Bills.
That's very disappointing. I didn't know that until just now. That's very disappointing. We needed him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's poor form. But when it comes to good form, what you get from good form is at this He Did This to Me network. Please go down there, hit a like, hit a subscribe. If you're liking the content, we got Nick on Knicks, and we're going to continue to come at you, father and son, and some real New York sports fans. Let's talk about something outside of New York sports. Jason Kelce had a little incident. Everybody's seen it now at this point. I don't need to explain it, but I did want to ask, and especially with, now at this point, he had his apology. He's been able to react to it on his podcast with his brother. What do you think of this entire incident and, how it was handled and, just overall, just the whole situation? What were your thoughts?
I mean, listen, he shouldn't be smashing people's phones and so forth because they say something he doesn't like about his brother.
You do know what he said.
Yeah. He called him the F word.
Correct.
Homosexual slur. And, it was crude what this guy said. It was crude what Jason Kelce did. It was friggin' hilarious. I don't think it's a big deal. He apologized to the kid. I'm sure he bought him a new cell phone, probably bought him 5 new cell phones. Right. But, it's good that he apologized and you move on and all that, but it was absolutely hilarious. I mean, it made me love that guy that much more. Honestly.
You know what? And that's one of the things that I have actually taken from this that I've somewhat enjoyed is the fact that everybody's not immediately just being like, oh my God, Jason Kelce, that was so terrible. How can you do that? Blah, 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 blah. He's come out. He said all the right things. He has said exactly what you said. I got to avoid this. I can't do this. But also, man, sometimes we got to give these guys a little bit of grace for the fact that they are humans. This is his little brother, and you're out here just talking crazy like that. And also, I'm glad that a lot of people who were annoyed with the other person involved, because it's like, dude, you're clearly just trying to incite him and trying to get your viral
what you said
moment.
Didn't even make any sense.
Right? Doesn't make any sense. And
you're
also, just
because you're with her.
Yeah, no, it doesn't make any sense. But also, why are you? Dog, come on, man. That you can't, you're literally the only thing, you're not trying to fight this guy. You don't hate him that much. You literally are just trying to hope that you get this viral moment. And I'm glad that as opposed to this guy getting like, some sort of fame and notoriety over this, he's looked at it as a douche because that's what he is. I thought that was a very douchey thing to do.
No.
And, as much as we would all like to say, hey, in this situation, you should react this way or that way. I personally can say that, we've all made mistakes before. And when somebody's talking about your little brother like that, maybe you're walking around that morning, little college game day, you got a few brews in you and you fucking flip on this guy. And hey, I think he'll react better next time. And I'm just glad that it didn't get out of hand where anybody gets hurt. This guy causes himself some sort of serious legal trouble or anything like that.
Exactly. He didn't assault the guy. He didn't touch the man, which is great. This guy is kind of like he's down with the same guy, the guy who was annoying Mike Tyson on the flight. He's that guy. Right. And it's like, come on, man, go ahead with yourself, man. I mean, you got nothing better to do with your time than to just try to ascend to douche stardom. I mean, that's clearly all you're about. It's weak sauce. It's a bad look. You look like a fool. I'd like to think and if that guy is spending any time telling people, hey, did you see me in this video? You should be embarrassed by that guy. You know? Come on.
Agreed. Your favorite player. And this dropped, we recorded on Saturday last week, a rare Saturday recording for the He Did This To Me pod. And right after we got off, immediately I saw the news that Joel Embiid had been suspended for 3 games. Oh, no, at this point, he hadn't been suspended. It was just that he got into an altercation with a reporter, blogger, reporter, whatever you want to call him. Those lines clearly are blurred these days. But he got into an altercation, allegedly shoved this guy. No video footage of it, but it is now turned into a 3-game suspension. And this guy, I went and I read the stuff that, he said. Mm-hmm. And it was Bush League. I mean, come on. You're talking about this guy and the fact that he misses games, including like the birth of his child and him missing time for the death of his younger brother. I don't think those should be even included when you're talking about.
What exactly is written that he is saying, well, he missed games because of this and this? Is that what he wrote?
It's a very critical article about the fact that he missed games, that he misses so many games. And when citing references for reasons that he's missed games, he throws those in there. I don't agree with that. I don't think you should do that. I think you should have some more couth than that. And I get Embiid being a little bit annoyed with that. And I get how these guys specifically are like, yo, this is my fucking job, man. I, as Embiid says, I give my face to the city. And then, I think it is very well within everybody's right to criticize Joel Embiid for the amount of time that he's missed. I don't think adding those points when doing so is good form. Embiid now sees this guy and wants to shove him. Again, Embiid, you don't really want to shove this guy. So what? You don't want to fight him. So what? You just want to you want to intimidate him in some way. And okay, all right, you want to do that, but it's going to cost you 3 games. Also, news just came out today that Tyrese Maxey is out multiple weeks with a hamstring. And Paul George just came back, and he hasn't looked so great in his return, but obviously he's knocking off some rust coming back from that hyperextension that he got in the preseason. Philly, I think they're 1-6 or 1-7 at some point now. They're having a tough start to the season. Yeah. And Embiid looking like he's going to be coming back next week against the Knicks on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. What did you think about this entire Embiid incident? And I saw a great tweet earlier this week that said it would have been more of a punishment to make Embiid play 3 straight games as opposed to be suspended for 3.
Right. I didn't read the entire article. I only read parts of it. I get that this fellow shouldn't have said what he said or brought up Embiid's brother, the passing of his brother or his son, the birth of his son. The guy was trying to make a point, clearly made it inartfully. I do get away a little bit, Nick. First of all, putting your hands on the man, totally out of the question. That's just stupid. That's selfish and it's childish. First of all, if you're Joel Embiid, your first and only thought needs to be for the team, and especially with you missing as many games and you want to get back as soon as possible, you have to realize that putting your hands on this man puts that in jeopardy. There's no way around that.
Fair.
And you do that because you're not thinking about anybody but your little whiny feelings. And I get it that you're upset about it, Nick, but I find it kind of bullshit. I find it kind of stupid always when people, this whole statement of keep this person's name out your mouth. I mean, it's like, what? So you're going to control what I say? What are you going to do? You know, and actually, when somebody wants to say something like that, to me, you're actually saying, if I say this, you're going to hit me. You're going to do something. And if that's the case, I think that's never worked. That would never work well with me because nobody's telling me what to say. So I think that's bullshit. But if you're going to say that, be ready to back it up.
I think that when it comes to your children and when it comes to like, I think.
So what does that mean? You think
if I'm an athlete, if I'm an athlete, well, I mean, he did see him, and when he saw him, he dealt with him. But I think that if I'm an athlete,
deal with him, he shoved him.
He shoved him. I'm sure people got in between it or whatever. But I mean, like, yeah,
and he didn't really want to fight him, like you said.
Yeah, I don't think he really. But I think that at the end of the day, I think that Joel Embiid is I think that he is well, you know, I agree with him on the whole, like, yo, you don't need to be talking about my dead brother or about my kid.
You can be upset with that. That's fine. But
I think I think when it comes to that, I think it's okay to say keep their names out your fucking mouth. I get
right. Okay. And if I don't, what are you going to do?
I'm going to come see you.
You're going to come see me. You're not going to do anything.
Somebody else broke us up or whatnot, but I mean, like,
but he wasn't going to do anything, Nick. If he shoved him, and if people hadn't broken him up, he wouldn't have done a thing.
He's not going to go beat the shit out of the guy. But no, if this guy, I think if this guy would have tried to buck up, if somehow people don't get in between and this guy bucks up and puts his hands on Embiid, I do think Embiid would. I don't think he would stop. I don't think he would run away. I think he would do something. I think
he would do something, and he would owe that man millions of dollars.
Sure. Okay, I'm not saying it's smart.
I'm telling you, if I'm that guy, I would say, what are you going to do? What are you going to do?
I'm not saying
we can talk about this if you like, but don't think you're going to tell me what to do. I mean,
I do think that. Listen, if we're going to have a relationship as far as athlete and journalist, and you know you're going to be invited into the Sixers locker room and shit like that, then I'm going to say something like that to you. And then if you want to buck back at me right then and say no, fuck you, I'll say whatever I want to say. Then all right, you sick. I make sure the Sixers say you don't have any more access or anything like that.
Then fine, do that. Do that. Don't step to him and shove him because you're not going to do any more than shove him. And that's stupid. You're 7 foot and he's probably some guy who's 5'9". It's just stupid, man.
I hear you.
You know, and just handle it and just say, you know, my thought is, you know, you say what you want to say to the guy. Don't talk to shit about my people or whatnot. And if he said something, say, all right, man, I got you. And the next day, he's out. He's never in the Sixers locker room again. That is the absolute best way you can handle it.
Agreed.
You want to be a tough guy or actually an absolutely fake tough guy? Yeah, because you're not going to do no tough guy shit here. You're just not. Even if you are actually a tough guy, you're not going to do tough guy shit right here because you're fucking yourself if you do. So that's my whole point, Nick. There's no reason for this braggadocio where you're not going to follow with anything. If you're not going to do nothing, shut the fuck up and just handle your business. But that to me is part and parcel to who he is. If you're not going to do anything, just shut up. But he wants to talk. Shut the fuck up, man. Come on, he's a tool. You know. So anyway, that's my Embiid rant for the week.
All right. So now we get to a little segment that you know, we now have gotten to 14-4.
Okay.
14-4.
You heard him, people.
I mean, just an absolute heater. The big guy is on, and we get to a little segment that we like to call the big guy locks.
Come on now.
All right, big guy. 3 games against the spread. Who you got?
All right. So you got to check me on these spreads. This is a wild one. My first one. I like the Panthers over the Giants in Germany. You know, the Oktoberfest. Well, it's November, but okay, you get my point. You know, what's the line you see there, Nick? I think Bryce is going to come up. I think he's going to come up.
You think that Bryce Young? They are right now. They are plus 6.5. Are the Panthers against the Giants?
This is what I'm saying, Nick. It's almost a touchdown. Give me the Panthers. Give me the Panthers to beat the Giants in Ramstein or wherever the hell they're playing. All right, and then next I'm thinking, no, not Vikings, Jags. What was the other
You pick
one
the Vikings every week. I
know.
They did cover for you last week. They covered for you.
I know. But I gotta tell you, I'm tempted. But it's in Jacksonville, and I keep feeling like Sunshine's going to have a game. But I think the Vikings will beat the Jags. But I'm not going there. I may have to come back to that. I do think I'm going to take the Bills. What's the Bills line over the Colts?
Bills -4 at the Colts.
Yeah, I definitely want to do that. -4 over the Colts. And then, boy, yeah, I don't think I'm touching Eagles Cowboys. That's a toss up, man. Who knows what's going to happen? Well,
I think the Eagles are a much better team. No Dak Prescott this week as
no
well.
No Dak.
No
Cooper
Dak
Rush.
Prescott. But I mean, whenever you look at those games, I mean, 7.5 points is
it's 7.5 now. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's 7.5. And then me personally, one thing, and obviously if you like it, you like it. But I never like betting against the team who just made a quarterback change. Because I've seen it too happen where you get that one game where they get the spark, like Carolina earlier this year, where your boy the Red Rifle came in, gave him the spark before he got into the car accident and we had to throw the kid back out there.
Like Mike White.
Like Mike White, exactly.
Where's Mike White?
Third pick. What do you got?
We need one more, right?
Yep.
I'm gonna have to go with Nick. I do think I'm gonna go with the Eagles over the Cowboys. I think Jerry World is going to burn to the ground. Come on. What's he going to say after this? Wasn't he almost crying after last week's game? He gave one interview where he sounded like he was getting kind of choked up.
He's got the watery eye, and he's definitely got that kind of just old guy thing where he's garbly in his throat, right. So he always sounds like he's about to break down. Yeah, he's got. It's been just a horror show for him all season long. I mean, from the off season,
we're all in.
And then the threatening people's jobs and some of the different some of the different interviews he's given where I saw one day and I heard Jeff Saturday just be like, that to me sounded like somebody who has no idea what's going on.
It's an impossible position for him. I mean, you're GM of an NFL team. It's a very difficult job. How old is he now? 82?
Something like that. Yeah.
I mean, Nick, come on, man.
Yeah. I feel that way about a lot of high profile positions that we need much younger people doing them. But man, I just it's been sad for them, but with it being the Cowboys, it hasn't been that sad for everybody else. But okay, so you got Panthers plus 6.5.
Let's go.
In Germany against the Giants. You got the Bills -4, and that's at the Colts, and you got the Eagles -7.5 at the Cowboys.
Jawohl.
All right, so last 5 weeks, 14-4. If you're trying to make some money, get down with the big guy.
Let's go.
Catch us every week on YouTube or wherever you find your podcasts. Please follow, like, comment, and subscribe, and make sure you hit that notification button on all platforms. We really appreciate all the love, and you can find us on all socials at he_did this to me. Love you, big guy.
Love you, kid.